Okay, first off, Kanye should probably just shut up. Just stop posting on social media. Nobody likes him. I don't care about him. Also, what the hell is going on with the Brooklyn Nets? First they lose pretty much everybody. Now Taurean Prince is gone too. They've already signed Michael Beasley and Jamal Crawford, and who knows who else they're gonna sign. But anyway, I guess it's time to talk about the Spurs trade with Indiana that sent Kawhi Leonard, the infamous one, where with a couple other draft picks for George Hill. And granted, George Hill did end up averaging like 16 points and about 10 points over the rest of his time with Indiana. But still, that's no replacement for Kawhi. Kawhi, as everyone knows, is a superstar in basketball. And basically, everyone seems to forget it that Davis Bertans was also in this trade. And if you think about it from the perspectives of each team at the time, it seemed fair. There was no guarantee that Kawhi Leonard was going to be this amazing player that he is now. He he was projected by Draft Express to be not very good in isolation. They did note that he had a good mid-range jumper and was kind of okay from shooting threes, but they had no idea that he was going to develop into what he is now. Here, the NBA draft compared him to Luke Mbah and Gerald Wallace, which are both fair at the time, but still not Kawhi. I don't think anyone could have predicted that he was going to turn into what he did. And if the Pacers just hadn't thrown in Davis Bertans into that trade, then their future might have looked a lot different than it did now. They might have developed him into a solid player, but like, who knows? I mean, it's the Pacers, not the Spurs. But they did manage to get something out of Paul George. Who's to say that they wouldn't get something out of Kawhi or Davis Bertans? And then there was this other guy, this Zero Slash player, Ezarem Lorbeck, Ezarem Lorbeck from the Pacers. He was drafted in 2005, so there was no way he was ever going to play. Davis Bertans, by the way, has recently decided to opt out of playing in Orlando, which is cool, I guess. So there's that. He said he wanted to protect himself from injuries, which, fair. I'm not going to knock him for that. George Hill this season is shooting almost 50% from three. He's leading the NBA. Interestingly enough, their list of 3-point percentage leaders does not include Matt Thomas. I don't know, I'm just rambling. But anyway, and that even before then he was pretty okay. A couple seasons before this trade, he had shot right about 40% from three. And then he consistently shot around like 36, 37% from behind the arc. Since the trade, he never really averaged that many assists, but you could tell he was just kind of a team-first player who never took away anything from the offense and was really more of just a 3-and-D shooting guard. His thing is just, he was a great defender. He stuck with everybody, no matter how big or small they were. Just put the hand on the other guy's hip and stick with them. The Pacers, before the trade, had not made the playoffs for the past 4 or 5 years, and then had only then just made the 8, just snuck into the playoffs, way under 500. made the 8th seed, lost in the first round, and then they traded for George Hill, and they helped him, and they helped this core of like Paul George and David West and Roy Hibbert, who flamed out very quickly. He helped make them. He helped them kind of irritate LeBron James and the Heatles. But what's really important to note here is Kawhi Leonard just brought them a championship. His first couple years was meh. I didn't want to close that. And then he just completely broke out in year 4 or so. He averaged 16 points, and that I think was no, he actually really only broke out in 2014 when they won the championship. He was alright that season. The team won the finals. He really evolved into something special around 2016, 2017, and then he got hurt. And now he's playing like he is. Another thing to note is that Danny Granger was on that team also, so that was another player at the wing position that would have taken minutes from Kawhi. So they were pretty loaded there. Now they had no idea that he was about to drop off from injuries, so honestly he probably could have been given a chance in the rotation. Other trades they could have made for him, they could have moved Tyler Hansbrough instead of Kawhi. I mean, ultimately Hansbrough was theoretically supposed to be a lower ceiling, higher floor kind of guy. He'd post up, get you a couple buckets. Didn't end up really being anything at all. Kind of sucked. But if the Spurs decide to do what they did with literally everybody else, then he would have been at least an okay basketball player. They could have just not included Davis Bertans in that trade and instead traded like some future asset. Or they could have just not done the deal at all, which would have resulted in them having a loaded small forwards position, no backup point guard, because really their only other option was like Leandro Barbosa or something, or AJ Price, and nobody wants AJ Price running your backup point guard. And I mean, I guess it's a good thing that the Spurs developed these players into what they are today. Kawhi is, of course, I don't even have to say anything, and Davis Bertans was already scouted to be a great shooter, not a good athlete, good hardworking guy, and so far all of those things have carried over. A lot of that can be attributed to Pops, and they really got screwed over by Marcus Morris, man. So, I guess that's the moral of the story. Screw Marcus Morris.